She dismissed her black security guard as just help. Then he saved her life and she said, "I owe you everything." The autumn rain fell in silver sheets against the towering glass facade of the Grandmont Hotel, each droplet catching the golden glow of the chandeliers inside. It was the kind of evening where wealth whispered rather than shouted, where diamond earrings sparkled beneath perfectly styled hair, where champagne flutes touched with the softest crystal clink, where everyone who was anyone gathered to celebrate success and status. Victoria Ashford moved through the charity gala like a swan gliding across still water, elegant, untouchable, entirely in her element. At 32, she'd built an empire in commercial real estate, her name synonymous with luxury developments that transformed city skylines. Her tailored ivory gown hugged her slender frame, her honey-blonde hair swept into an impeccable chignon. She smiled at board members, air-kissed society wives, and mentally calculated property values even as she made small talk about vacation homes in the Hamptons. Victoria had worked hard for this life, clawed her way up from a middle-class background that she rarely mentioned anymore. She learned early that success meant maintaining appearances, controlling perceptions, keeping people in their proper places, including staff. Marcus Thompson stood near the entrance in his crisp Navy security uniform, his broad shoulders squared, his dark eyes scanning the crowd with practiced vigilance. He was 34, though his face carried a weariness that added years, the kind of weariness that comes from being looked through rather than at. He'd been working security at the Grandmont for 3 years, invisible to most of the guests who passed him without a second glance. When Victoria swept past him toward the coat check, fumbling with her designer clutch, a lipstick tumbled free and rolled across the marble floor. Marcus moved quickly, bending to retrieve it before it could be trampled by passing guests. "Ma'am," he said gently, extending the gold tube toward her. Victoria's eyes barely flickered to his face. She plucked the lipstick from his palm without touching his hand, without meeting his gaze, without a word of thanks. Just a dismissive nod, the kind you'd give to a piece of furniture that happened to be functional. Just the help, she thought automatically, already turning away, already forgetting him. Marcus's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. He'd learned long ago not to expect gratitude from people like her, people who looked at his uniform, his skin, and made instant calculations about his worth. He returned to his post, professional mask firmly in place. But as Victoria disappeared into the glittering crowd, something flickered in Marcus's expression, not anger but something deeper. Recognition, perhaps. He'd seen women like her before, all polish and perfection on the surface, all armor and emptiness underneath. The evening unfolded in predictable patterns. Victoria networked with surgical precision, her laughter perfectly calibrated, her interest in others carefully measured. She collected business cards like trophies, promised lunch meetings she'd have her assistant schedule, and avoided the more tedious donors by timing her champagne refills strategically. By 10 o'clock, she was ready to leave. The event had served its purpose. She'd been seen, made the right connections, donated enough to ensure her name appeared prominently in the program. She retrieved her coat, a luxurious black cashmere, and stepped into the hotel's marble lobby, her heels clicking with authority. Marcus watched her approach the exit, noted the slight unsteadiness in her step. Champagne, probably, 3 or 4 glasses, he'd guess. Enough to blur edges, but not enough to show. He'd been trained to notice these things. "Ma'am, can I call you a car?" he offered, stepping forward. Victoria waved him off without looking. "I have a driver." But when she pushed through the revolving doors into the rain-soaked night, the circular driveway was empty. Her driver, whom she'd told to return at 10:30, wasn't there. She checked her phone, dead battery. Of course. She stood beneath the awning, irritation creasing her perfect features. The rain had intensified, turning the street into a river of reflected light. A few other guests trickled out, claimed their vehicles, disappeared into the night. Marcus emerged from the lobby, holding an umbrella. "Your driver hasn't arrived yet." "Obviously not," Victoria snapped, then caught herself. Even she knew better than to be overtly rude. "He'll be here." "The weather's getting worse. There's flooding on 5th Avenue. Traffic backed up for miles." Marcus's voice was calm, factual. "You're welcome to wait inside where it's warm." Victoria considered this. Waiting inside meant potentially encountering more people she'd have to talk to, more networking when she was exhausted. "I'll wait here." Marcus nodded, started to retreat, then paused. Something in his gut told him to stay. Years of reading people, of sensing danger before it materialized, had honed his instincts to a razor's edge. "I'll keep you company if that's all right, just until your driver arrives." Victoria wanted to refuse. She didn't need a security guard hovering, but the street was dark, empty, and something about the night felt off. "Fine." They stood in silence, the rain drumming overhead, the city sounds muffled and distant. Victoria checked her phone again uselessly. Marcus watched the street with quiet intensity. "You work here long?" Victoria asked, more to fill the silence than from genuine interest. "3 years." She didn't ask more. Didn't ask his name, his story, anything that might require seeing him as fully human. Marcus had been through this dance countless times. He could have told her about his master's degree in criminal justice, about his daughter waiting at home with his mother, about the dreams he deferred when his wife died and left him drowning in medical debt. But people like Victoria Ashford didn't ask, and he'd learned not to offer. Then he saw them. 3 men emerged from the alley beside the hotel, moving with purpose that made Marcus's shoulders tense. Their eyes locked onto Victoria, onto the diamonds at her throat, the designer bag on her arm. They spread out, predatory, cutting off escape routes. "Ma'am," Marcus said quietly, urgency threading his voice. "We need to go inside now." Victoria followed his gaze, saw the men approaching, and froze. Fear, sharp and primal, cut through her champagne haze. The lead man was close now, his hand moving to his jacket. "Nice necklace, lady." Marcus stepped between them and Victoria in one fluid motion, his body a shield. "Gentlemen, let's all stay calm." "Move aside, rent-a-cop." "Can't do that." Marcus's voice remained steady, but his muscles coiled ready. Everything happened in seconds that felt like hours. The man lunged. Marcus deflected, twisted, used the attacker's momentum against him. The umbrella clattered away. Rain soaked them instantly. The other 2 men rushed forward. Victoria screamed, stumbled backward, her heel catching on wet pavement. Marcus fought with controlled precision, years of training, of discipline, of protecting others at his own expense. He took a blow to his ribs, another to his jaw, but kept Victoria behind him, kept putting himself between her and harm. "Run," he shouted, "get inside." But Victoria couldn't move, couldn't process, could only watch this man she dismissed, ignored, treated as invisible, fight 3 attackers to protect her. Hotel staff burst through the doors, alerted by the commotion. The attackers scattered, melting into the rainy darkness. Marcus staggered, blood trickling from his split lip, his uniform torn. Victoria stood trembling, her perfect composure shattered, staring at the man who just saved her life. Marcus straightened, wincing, and met her eyes for the first time, really met them. "Are you hurt, ma'am?" She shook her head, mute, something cracking open in her chest that she couldn't name. She had no idea that this moment would change everything. The police came, took statements, disappeared into the night with promises to patrol the area. Hotel management fussed over Victoria, offered her a suite to rest in, insisted she see the paramedics who'd arrived with the police. She went through the motions numbly, her mind replaying the attack in fragments, the cold glint of threat, the rain, Marcus's body between her and violence. When she emerged from giving her statement, she found Marcus sitting on a bench in the lobby, an ice pack pressed to his jaw, his supervisor speaking to him in low, serious tones. Victoria approached, her heels announcing her presence. The supervisor straightened. "Ms. Ashford, I'm so sorry about what happened. We take security very seriously." "Is he in trouble?" Victoria interrupted, looking at Marcus. No, of course not." Marcus acted heroically. "I was just telling him he should go to the hospital, get checked out." Marcus shook his head. "I'm fine, just bruises." "You need medical attention," Victoria heard herself say. "Those men, you took several hits." "I've had worse." Marcus's voice was quiet, dismissive of his own pain in a way that made something twist in Victoria's stomach. She turned to the supervisor. "Is he finished here? Can he leave?" "Yes, ma'am. His shift ended 20 minutes ago." Victoria made a decision that surprised even herself. "I'm taking you to the hospital." Marcus looked up, startled. "That's not necessary." "You saved my life. The least I can do is make sure you're okay." Her tone left no room for argument, the commanding voice she used in boardrooms. Her driver had finally arrived, full of apologies about the traffic. Victoria guided Marcus, gently, as if he might break, toward the car. He moved stiffly, pain he'd been suppressing now showing in the careful way he lowered himself into the leather seat. The drive to the emergency room was quiet. Victoria kept stealing glances at Marcus in the dim light, really looking at him for the first time. His profile was strong, handsome in a way she'd never allowed herself to notice. His hands, resting on his knees, were scraped and swelling, hands that had defended her. Shame washed over her, hot and uncomfortable. She walked past this man for years at various events, had literally handed him her coat without acknowledgement, had thought of him as scenery, and he'd nearly died protecting her. At the hospital, she insisted on staying, on covering all costs, on handling the paperwork while he was examined. The waiting room was harsh and fluorescent, nothing like her usual world of soft lighting and designer interiors. She sat in a plastic chair, her expensive gown ridiculous in this context, and waited. When Marcus emerged 2 hours later with his ribs taped, stitches in his eyebrow and pain medication in hand, he found Victoria still there, scrolling through emails on a borrowed phone charger. "You didn't have to wait," he said. "I wanted to," she stood, suddenly awkward. "What did they say?" "Bruised ribs, minor lacerations, mild concussion, nothing serious." He attempted a smile that turned into a wince. "Let me take you home." "Ms. Ashford." "Victoria," she corrected. "My name is Victoria." Something shifted in his expression. "Marcus." "I know." She asked the hospital administrator, had learned his full name, had learned he'd listed his mother as emergency contact, had learned more in 2 hours of waiting than in years of walking past him. In the car, Marcus gave the driver an address in a neighborhood Victoria never visited, a part of the city her developments were slowly gentrifying, pushing people like Marcus further to the margins. The contrast between her world and his had never been clearer. "Thank you," Victoria said as they drove through rain-slicked streets. "That's inadequate, but thank you." Marcus looked out the window. "Just doing my job." "Your job is to check IDs and monitor doors, not fight off armed attackers." Her voice cracked slightly. "You could have been killed." "So could you," he turned to meet her gaze. "That wasn't acceptable." The simple statement carried layers she was just beginning to unpack. To him, her life had value. Inherent, unquestioned value, even though she'd treated him as disposable. Why, the question escaped before she could stop it. Why risk yourself for someone who's never even said hello to you? Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "Because that's not who I am. I don't treat people the way they treat me. I treat them the way they deserve to be treated, as human beings who matter." The words landed like stones in still water, ripples spreading through Victoria's carefully constructed worldview. They arrived at a modest apartment building, its brick facade crumbling, its entrance dimly lit. Marcus reached for the door handle, movement still cautious. "Wait," Victoria pulled a business card from her clutch. "My personal number. If you need anything, medical bills, time off work, anything at all, you call me." He took the card, studied it, then her. "I will, thank you, Victoria." Her name and his voice sounded different, real. She watched him disappear into the building, then rode home through the empty city streets, her reflection in the car window a stranger to herself. Over the next 3 days, Victoria couldn't stop thinking about Marcus, about his calm in the face of danger, his dismissal of his own injuries, his dignity when she'd shown him none. She found herself reviewing security footage from past events, watching herself walk past him, ignore him, treat him as invisible. Each instance was a small knife to her conscience. On the 4th day, she returned to the Grandmont Hotel, not for an event but to find Marcus. He was at his usual post, his uniform crisp despite the fatting bruises on his face. When he saw her, surprise flickered across his features. "Victoria," he straightened, "is everything all right?" "Have you had lunch?" The question tumbled out, impulsive, unlike her. "I know, I'm on shift until 3. "When do you break?" 1 o'clock. "Meet me at the cafe across the street." It wasn't quite a request, wasn't quite a command. "Please." Marcus hesitated, clearly uncertain, then nodded. "Okay." The cafe was small, local, the kind of place Victoria normally never noticed. She arrived early, chose a table in the back, and felt absurdly nervous. This wasn't a business meeting or a romantic date. She didn't even know what it was. An apology, an expression of gratitude, an attempt to ease her gnawing guilt. Marcus arrived exactly at 1, still in uniform, drawing curious glances from other patrons. He sat across from her, careful with his still healing ribs. "How are you feeling?" Victoria asked. "Better, ribs are healing." He studied her with those quiet, knowing eyes. "You didn't come here to ask about my health." His directness caught her off guard. In her world, everyone spoke in subtext and strategy. "No," she admitted. "I came because I can't stop thinking about what happened, and I can't stop thinking about how I treated you before it happened." Marcus waited, giving her space to continue. "I was horrible to you, dismissive. I didn't even see you as a person." The words cost her, but she forced them out. "I want to apologize." Apology accepted. His voice was neutral, guarded. "And I want to understand." She leaned forward. "Who are you, Marcus Thompson? Because clearly I had no idea." Something in his expression softened. "What do you want to know?" "Everything." So he told her. About growing up in South Chicago, about his mother working 2 jobs to keep him in school, about earning his degrees through scholarships and night classes. About meeting his wife Alicia at university, about their daughter Jasmine, now 8 years old. About Alicia's cancer diagnosis, the brutal 2-year battle, the medical debt that swallowed his savings and forced him to take work below his qualifications. About being a widowed father trying to give his daughter a stable life, trying to honor his wife's memory by being the man she'd believed he could be. Victoria listened, really listened, and felt her carefully constructed walls crumbling. This wasn't just a security guard. This was a man of depth, of pain, of quiet strength that had nothing to do with physical power. "I'm sorry," she whispered, "about your wife." "Thank you." Marcus's eyes grew distant. "She used to say that our circumstances don't define us, our choices do. I try to remember that." "She sounds remarkable." "She was," he smiled, sad but genuine. "She'd probably laugh at this situation. She always said I was too good at seeing the best in people, even when they couldn't see it in themselves." The statement hung between them, heavy with implication. "Tell me about your daughter," Victoria said, changing the subject to safer ground. Marcus's face transformed when he spoke about Jasmine, about her laugh, her intelligence, her questions about why the world worked the way it did, about trying to shield her from prejudice while preparing her to face it, about the small joys, reading together before bed, weekend trips to the library, her dreams of becoming a scientist. Victoria found herself smiling genuinely for the first time in days. "She sounds wonderful." "She's my reason for everything." Marcus checked his watch. "I should get back." "Wait," Victoria pulled out her phone. "Can I have your number? I'd like to stay in touch, make sure you're recovering okay." Marcus hesitated, clearly conflicted, then recited his number. "But Victoria, I appreciate what you're doing, the lunch, the concern, but you don't owe me anything beyond what you've already done." "Maybe I want to," she said quietly. "Maybe I need to." He studied her for a long moment, then nodded. "Okay." As they parted outside the cafe, Victoria felt something she hadn't experienced in years. The thrill of genuine human connection. Not networking, not transaction, but real interest in another person's life. But then something shifted. That night she texted him, "Thank you for lunch and for your honesty." His response came 20 minutes later, "Thank you for listening. Not many people do." A conversation began, simple at first, checking on his recovery, sharing small details about their days. But gradually, over the following week, the messages deepened. Marcus sent a photo of Jasmine's science project, a lopsided volcano that had erupted purple foam all over their kitchen. Victoria found herself laughing at her phone, texting back encouragement. She sent him photos too, her office view at sunset, a ridiculous sculpture at a gallery opening. His responses were thoughtful, perceptive, seeing things in the images she hadn't noticed herself. They began meeting for coffee on his breaks. Brief encounters that left Victoria wanting more, wanting to understand this man who'd been invisible to her for so long. Her assistant noticed the change, commented that Victoria seemed lighter somehow. Her colleagues noticed she was distracted in meetings, checking her phone more frequently. Victoria noticed that for the first time in years, work wasn't everything. There was something, someone, making her feel alive in a way profit margins never could. But she also noticed the looks they got when they met in public. The cafe waitresses' surprise when they sat together. The double takes from hotel guests when she approached Marcus at his post. The subtle shift in her assistant's tone when she mentioned Marcus's name. The world had opinions about a wealthy white real estate developer and a black security guard sitting together, talking, laughing. Victoria tried to ignore it, but the awareness crept in, uncomfortable, forcing her to confront realities she'd never had to consider before. One evening, 2 weeks after the attack, Marcus invited her to a community center in his neighborhood. Jasmine has a recital. She's playing violin. You don't have to come, but I'd like you to meet her, if you're comfortable with that. Victoria's heart did something complicated. I'd love to. The community center was a world away from the concert halls Victoria typically attended. Folding chairs squeaked on linoleum floors, fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, and proud parents crowded into a multi-purpose room that smelled of floor wax and old coffee. Victoria, in her designer jeans and cashmere sweater, the most casual outfit she owned, felt conspicuously out of place. Then Marcus appeared with Jasmine, and everything else faded. Jasmine was small for 8, with her father's eyes and a gap-toothed smile that transformed her whole face. She wore a burgundy dress that had been carefully pressed, her hair twisted into elaborate braids threaded with colorful beads. "Jasmine, this is my friend Victoria," Marcus said, his hand gentle on his daughter's shoulder. Victoria crouched down, meeting Jasmine at eye level. "Hi, Jasmine. Your dad tells me you're an amazing violinist." Jasmine giggled, shy but pleased. "I'm okay. I only started last year." "I'm sure you're wonderful. I can't wait to hear you play." The girl's eyes lit up, then she leaned close to Marcus, whispering loudly enough for Victoria to hear. "She's really pretty, Dad." Marcus's cheeks darkened. "Jasmine." Victoria laughed, genuinely delighted. "Thank you, sweetheart, so are you." They sat together in the audience, Marcus's mother, a regal woman named Patricia with silver braids and knowing eyes, on his other side. Patricia had assessed Victoria with one long, measuring look that communicated volumes. Victoria felt judged and, surprisingly, found she cared about passing the test. When Jasmine took the stage, tiny violin tucked under her chin, Victoria held her breath. The girl played Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star with fierce concentration, her tongue peeking out between her teeth, her fingers occasionally fumbling. It was imperfect, tentative, beautiful. Marcus leaned forward, his eyes shining with pride so pure it made Victoria's throat tighten. This was love, she realized. Uncomplicated, unconditional, fierce. The kind she'd never experienced, never let herself believe in. After the recital, they walked to a nearby diner. Marcus, Jasmine, Patricia, and Victoria. The dynamic was warm, teasing, full of inside jokes Victoria didn't understand, but found herself wanting to be part of. "So, Victoria," Patricia said over pie and ice cream, "Marcus tells me you're in real estate." "Yes, ma'am." Victoria felt 16 again, nervous under parental scrutiny. "Commercial development mostly." "Ma'am," Patricia's expression was neutral. "You building any affordable housing or just luxury condos that push folks like us out?" "Mama," Marcus said quietly. "It's a fair question." Victoria met Patricia's eyes. "Mostly luxury, I'm ashamed to say. I never thought much about the displacement until recently." "What changed?" Patricia's gaze was sharp, assessing. Victoria looked at Marcus, at Jasmine swinging her legs and eating ice cream with abandon. "My perspective." Patricia studied her for another long moment, then nodded, something softening in her expression. "Good answer." Later, walking Victoria to her car, Marcus apologized. "My mother's protective. She's seen me hurt before." "She loves you, that's beautiful." Victoria stopped beside her Mercedes, suddenly reluctant to leave this world of warm diners and community centers and genuine connection. "Thank you for inviting me. Jasmine is incredible. You're an amazing father." "Trying to be." Marcus leaned against her car, his shoulder inches from hers. "This is my real life, Victoria, not the hotel, not the uniform, this." "I know," she turned to face him fully, "and I want to know it, all of it, if you'll let me." The air between them shifted, charged with something neither had acknowledged until now. Marcus reached up, tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, his fingers gentle. "Why?" he asked softly. "I need to understand why you're here. Is this guilt? Gratitude, because I don't want to be your project, your good deed?" Victoria's breath caught. At first, maybe it was guilt, but now, she struggled to find words for feelings she'd spent a lifetime avoiding. Now it's because you're the most real person I've met in years, because you make me want to be better, because when I'm with you, I remember what it feels like to be human instead of successful. Marcus's thumb brushed her cheek, a question in his eyes. She answered by closing the distance between them, pressing her lips to his in a kiss that was tentative, searching, terrifying in its honesty. He kissed her back, his hand cupping her face, and Victoria felt herself falling into something she couldn't control, couldn't predict, couldn't protect herself from. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Marcus rested his forehead against hers. This is complicated. I know. People will talk, judge, make assumptions. Let them, Victoria's voice was fierce, surprising herself. I don't care. But she did care, would care, as the complications mounted in the days ahead. The next week unfolded like a dream and a nightmare intertwined. Victoria and Marcus stole moments together, coffee before his shifts, late-night phone calls that stretched until dawn, one perfect afternoon in the park with Jasmine where they fed ducks and Victoria felt like she was playing house in someone else's beautiful life. But reality intruded in sharp, painful ways. At a board meeting, Victoria mentioned Marcus in passing, his educational background, his qualifications being wasted in security work. Her CFO's eyebrows rose. You're getting awfully involved with the help. The casual dismissal, the echo of her own former attitude, made Victoria's blood boil. He's not the help. He's a person. A brilliant one, actually. The room went silent. After the meeting, her closest colleague pulled her aside. Victoria, be careful, your reputation. My reputation, Victoria's voice was ice. What about my humanity? But the warnings continued. Her mother, during their weekly call, expressed concern about Victoria associating with that man. Society friends gossiped, their voices carrying in powder rooms and over luncheons. Victoria heard the whispers, saw the stares when she arrived at the hotel to meet Marcus. Marcus felt it too. His supervisor made comments about fraternizing with guests. Other security guards gave him knowing looks, some supportive, others suspicious. One evening, as he left work, a colleague stopped him. Man, be careful, women like that, they're tourists. They visit our world, feel good about themselves, then go back to their penthouses. The words burrowed deep, fed doubts Marcus had been trying to suppress. He'd been down this road before, not exactly this, but similar enough. In college, he'd dated a white woman from old money. Her parents had smiled politely and made sure she understood he wasn't suitable for their family's legacy. The relationship had ended with his heart bruised and a clearer understanding of the barriers he'd face. He didn't want to believe Victoria was the same, but fear whispered that maybe his colleague was right. One night, 3 weeks after they'd first kissed, Marcus pulled away during their phone call. Victoria sensed the shift immediately. What's wrong? I'm just tired. His voice was distant. Marcus, don't shut me out. Silence stretched, then, what are we doing, Victoria, really? What do you mean? You and me, where does this go? Because I have a daughter to think about. I can't let her get attached to someone who's going to disappear. I'm not going to disappear, Victoria's heart hammered. Can you promise that? Can you promise that when the novelty wears off, when your friends keep judging, when reality sets in, you'll still want this? Want me? Yes, her voice broke. I can promise that. You say that now? Marcus sounded infinitely weary. But you don't know what you're signing up for. The stares, the assumptions, the discrimination that comes at people like us from all sides. I've lived this. You haven't. Then teach me, let me learn. It's not a course you can take, Victoria. It's a life, my life. And I need to know you're ready for that before we go any further. The call ended with uncertainty hanging between them like smoke. Victoria lay awake all night, wrestling with questions she'd never had to ask herself. Was she strong enough for this? Could she handle the judgment not for herself, but as a partner to Marcus? Could she be what Jasmine needed if this went where her heart wanted it to go? The answer came in an unexpected moment. 2 days later, Victoria attended a gala for a rival development company, the kind of event where networking was currency. She circulated, made small talk, and found herself in a conversation with a group of investors she'd been trying to win over for months. Victoria, one of them boomed, champagne in hand. Heard an interesting rumor about you, something about you and a security guard. The group laughed, expecting her to join in, to dismiss it as absurd. Victoria felt the moment crystallize. This was it. The choice. She could laugh along, protect her reputation, keep these investors happy. Or she could do what Marcus had taught her by example. Be honest, be brave, be human. Not a rumor, she said clearly. His name is Marcus Thompson. He has a master's degree in criminal justice. He's an incredible father, and he saved my life. And yes, I care about him deeply. The silence was deafening. One investor's smile faded. You're serious? Completely. Victoria, you realize how this looks. I realize exactly how it looks. And I realize that if your business partnership is contingent on me dating within some approved demographic, then I don't want it. Her voice didn't waver. My personal life is mine. Judge me by my work or don't work with me at all. She walked away, her heart pounding, her hands shaking, her certainty absolute. She called Marcus immediately, stepping into a quiet hallway. I need to see you. Tonight, can you meet me? An hour later, they stood on a rooftop garden she'd designed for one of her properties, the city lights spreading below them like fallen stars. I told them, Victoria said without preamble. Everyone who asked, I told them about us, about you, and I didn't care who heard. Marcus went very still. Victoria. I know what you said, about novelty wearing off, about me not understanding what I'm signing up for. You're right, I don't fully understand, but I want to learn, I want to stand beside you and figure it out together. She took his hands. I'm not going anywhere, Marcus, unless you send me away. He looked at her for a long moment, searching her face, seeing something there that made his shoulders relax. I believe you. Yeah. He pulled her close, kissed her deeply, and Victoria felt the last of her walls crumble completely. I'm falling in love with you, she whispered against his lips. I probably have been since you stepped between me and those men, since you chose to protect someone who'd never protected you. I fell for you the moment you actually looked at me, really looked at me, Marcus smiled. Took you a while to catch up. They laughed and kissed and stood wrapped in each other while the city pulsed below, proof that sometimes the most unlikely connections are the truest. But even as they held each other, Victoria couldn't shake a growing unease. Love wasn't enough by itself. There were practical realities they hadn't addressed, difficult conversations they'd been avoiding. She realized she'd fallen in love, but was it too late to bridge the gap between their vastly different worlds? The crisis came from an unexpected direction. Victoria's company was approached by a major investment group interested in a partnership that would triple her development capacity. It was the opportunity she'd been working toward for years, the kind of deal that would secure her legacy, her empire, her place in real estate history. The meeting was scheduled for a Friday evening. Victoria prepared meticulously, assembling proposals and projections that showcased her vision for urban development. Then, the morning of the meeting, the lead investor's assistant called. Mr. Rothstein would like to schedule a more informal dinner instead. He prefers to get to know potential partners personally. He's requested you bring your significant other. He's old-fashioned about meeting the whole team, so to speak. Victoria's stomach dropped. My significant other. Yes, whoever you're seeing. He likes to understand a person's full life before committing to business relationships. After she hung up, Victoria stared at her phone, mind racing. This was it, the collision of her two worlds. She could bring Marcus, the man she loved, the man who taught her what actually mattered, and risk the most important business deal of her career. Or she could lie, make excuses, protect her professional future at the cost of denying him. She called Marcus. I need your advice on something. She explained the situation, her voice tight with stress. When she finished, silence filled the line. You're asking if you should take me to this dinner, Marcus said quietly. I'm asking what you think I should do. Victoria, I can't make this choice for you. I know, but... This is exactly what I was afraid of. His voice was sad, but not angry. Moments where you have to choose between me and your life, and I never want to be the reason you lose something you've worked for. You're not. Aren't I? Marcus sighed. Be honest. You're scared that showing up with a black security guard will cost you this deal, and you're probably right. That's the world we live in. Then the world is wrong, Victoria's voice rose, and I'm tired of pretending it's acceptable. So what are you going to do? It was the simplest, most complicated question. Victoria thought about the woman she'd been 2 months ago, polished, successful, hollow. She thought about the woman she was becoming, messier, more honest, more human. She thought about Marcus standing in the rain, his body a shield. About Jasmine's gap-toothed smile. About Patricia's testing gaze and gradual acceptance. She thought about who she wanted to be when she looked in the mirror. "I'm going to bring you to dinner," she said firmly. "And if they have a problem with it, then they're not people I want to partner with anyway." "Victoria, wait." "No, I've waited too long already. I've compromised too much, cared too much about what people think. You taught me that our choices define us. Well, I'm choosing you, us. I'm choosing to be brave." She could hear the emotion in his voice. "Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything." Friday evening, Victoria picked Marcus up from his apartment. He'd borrowed a suit from his late brother-in-law, had his hair freshly cut, looked devastating and nervous. "You okay?" Victoria asked as they drove to the restaurant. "Ask me after dinner," he took her hand. "Whatever happens, I'm proud of you." The restaurant was exclusive, expensive, the kind of place where old money met new to make deals that shaped cities. Mr. Rothstein was already seated, a silver-haired man in his 60s with shrewd eyes and an assessing gaze. He stood as they approached, his eyes flickering to Marcus with surprise he didn't bother to hide. "Mr. Rothstein, thank you for meeting with us." Victoria's voice was steady. "This is Marcus Thompson, my partner." She let the word hang, deliberately ambiguous. Business partner, life partner, both. Rothstein shook Marcus's hand, his grip perfunctory. "Thompson, what do you do?" "Currently security, sir. But my background is in criminal justice and urban safety policy." "I see." Rothstein's tone was neutral, his eyes calculating. The dinner was excruciating. Rothstein asked pointed questions, seemingly casual but designed to probe, to test, to reveal fault lines. Where did Marcus go to school? Where did he grow up? What did his parents do? Each question was a small knife, cutting at the class divide, the racial assumptions, the judgment that hummed beneath polite conversation. Victoria watched Marcus handle it with grace and dignity, his answers honest but not apologetic. He didn't pretend to be something he was. He didn't shrink or perform or accommodate. And Victoria fell more in love with him with every passing minute. But she also watched Rothstein's interest in the deal cooling in real time. His questions to her became more skeptical. His enthusiasm dimmed. When dessert arrived, Victoria knew the partnership was slipping away. She could salvage it, maybe. Distance herself from Marcus conversationally, refocus on business, signal that this relationship wasn't serious. Instead, she reached across the table and took Marcus's hand. "Mr. Rothstein, I appreciate your time tonight, but before we discuss business further, I need to be clear about something." Her voice was calm, final. "Marcus is the most honorable man I've ever met. He saved my life, taught me to see beyond my own privilege, and showed me what integrity actually looks like. If those qualities make him an inappropriate partner in your eyes, then we have fundamentally different values. And I don't want to build anything with someone whose values don't align with mine." Rothstein stared at her. "Ms. Ashford, I'm trying to protect you." "From what? Happiness? Love? Growing as a human being?" Victoria stood, pulling Marcus up with her. "Thank you for dinner, but I don't think this partnership is right for either of us." They walked out together into the cool night air, and Victoria felt light, free, terrified, exhilarated. "You just walked away from millions," Marcus said, stunned. "I walked away from compromising who I want to be." She turned to him, cupped his face in her hands. "I was wrong, Marcus, so wrong. For years I judged people like you, people who work hard, who sacrifice, who have depth and dignity that my wealthy friends could never understand. I treated you as less than human because of your uniform, your job, your skin. And then you saved my life and you didn't have to. You could have stayed safe. But you saw a person in danger and you acted." Tears streamed down her face. "I owe you everything, not just my life, but my humanity. You gave me back something I didn't even know I'd lost." Marcus kissed her tears away, his own eyes bright. "You saved me too, from believing I'd never be seen, never be valued for who I really am. You learned to see me, Victoria. That's more than most people ever do." "I love you," she whispered. "I love Jasmine, I love your mother, I love the world you've opened up to me, and I don't care who knows it or what it costs." "I love you too." He kissed her properly then on the sidewalk under the streetlights while the city moved around them. 3 months later, Victoria stood in the community center where Jasmine had performed, surrounded by residents, city officials, and a few carefully chosen investors who'd proven they shared her new vision. She was unveiling plans for her latest development: mixed-income housing with community spaces, green areas, affordable units alongside market-rate condos, a project that would enhance the neighborhood rather than displacing it. Marcus stood beside her, his hand in hers, no longer in a uniform but in a suit. He'd accepted a position in her company overseeing community outreach and safety initiatives, finally using his degrees and experience. "This project is personal," Victoria told the assembled crowd. "It's a correction of past mistakes, an acknowledgement that development should serve communities, not destroy them. I'm still learning to see beyond profit margins to the people affected by my decisions." She glanced at Marcus, at Jasmine sitting in the front row with Patricia, both beaming. "I've learned that from people who have shown me what real wealth looks like. Not money, but connection, integrity, love." The project was approved. The community embraced it. And slowly, Victoria rebuilt her business on a foundation of values instead of just value. There were still challenges: stares when they walked hand in hand, whispered comments, lost clients who couldn't accept their relationship. Marcus's mother still watched Victoria carefully, protective of her son's heart. Jasmine asked difficult questions about why some people seemed uncomfortable with her dad and Victoria together. But there were triumphs too: Jasmine calling Victoria by name with genuine affection, Patricia finally pulling Victoria aside and saying, "You're good for him," for both of them. Business partnerships with investors who valued her new approach, slowly changing the conversation about who belonged in her world and what that world could become. One evening, a year after the attack that had changed everything, Victoria and Marcus stood on the balcony of her penthouse, the place she'd once thought defined success. "Remember when you asked me what we were doing?" Victoria leaned into his warmth. "Where this could possibly go?" "I remember being terrified," Marcus admitted. "And now—" He turned her to face him, pulled a small velvet box from his pocket. "Now I'm still terrified, but for different reasons." Victoria's breath caught as he opened the box, revealing a simple, perfect diamond ring. "I'm not rich," Marcus said. "I can't offer you the life you're used to." "You've offered me so much more." Victoria's tears flowed freely. "You've offered me truth, growth, a family, love that doesn't perform or calculate or protect itself, love that's brave. Marry me, Victoria. Build a life with me and Jasmine. Keep teaching me about your world while I keep teaching you about mine. Mess it up together and figure it out and be honest and human and imperfect." "Yes," she kissed him fiercely. "Yes to all of it." As they held each other, the city lights spreading below like promises, Victoria thought about the journey that had brought her here. From dismissing a man as just help to recognizing him as her salvation. From seeing people as categories to seeing them as endlessly complex individuals. From protecting her small, safe world to embracing a bigger, messier, infinitely richer one. She told Marcus she owed him everything, and it was true, but not in the way she'd first meant it. She didn't owe him for saving her life that rainy night. She owed him for showing her that the life she'd been living wasn't really living at all. For teaching her that the greatest privilege isn't wealth or status, but the courage to see beyond first impressions, to recognize worth in unexpected places, to love without protection or pretense. The attack hadn't changed her life. Marcus had. His dignity, his patience, his refusal to be less than himself even when the world told him to be. And as Jasmine burst onto the balcony, excited to show them her latest school project, as Patricia followed with a knowing smile, as Marcus laughed and pulled his daughter into a hug, Victoria knew this was success. Not the corner office or the million-dollar deals or the society galas. This messy, complicated, beautiful family she'd found when she finally opened her eyes. The most beautiful stories, she'd learned, begin with the courage to see beyond first impressions. To recognize that every person, regardless of uniform, job title, or skin color, carries depths worth discovering. To understand that sometimes the person you dismiss might be the one who saves you, not just from danger, but from yourself. And as the city hummed below them and the future stretched ahead, uncertain but full of possibility, Victoria squeezed Marcus's hand and whispered, "I love you." He pulled her close, Jasmine between them, Patricia's hand on his shoulder, a family forged from courage and unexpected connection. "I know," he whispered back, "and that's how I know anything is possible.